Last week I traded my 1990 Miata for a 2016 Miata. As much as I like the old car, the new one appears to outperform it in every category. I'll miss the old car and hope to have a lot of fun with this one. In the meantime, I wanted to personalize it a bit, and one of the things I like in my cars is a radar detector. Another is a dash cam, and today I'm going to wire them up. Turned out the process was very similar to what went on in my 90. This is the mount we're going to use. It's a radar mount by the Package Group. It's available on Amazon for about $35. I've used this on a couple other vehicles. It's very well made. It's adjustable. You can set it up very nicely under your mirror. It holds the radar detector nice and close, but you can still access the controls of the mirror. And you're going to need a cable for your radar detector. Remember to order one specific for your detector, since some of them have different adapters to power them up. This one came with a wire tap. I did not use the wire tap. I ended up going straight to the fuse box. And you're going to need a USB adapter. In this case it's a micro USB, but you can order any type you want. My camera happens to use a mini. I decided to use an adapter because most of the newer ones have micro. Mini appears to be disappearing from the scene. And just a reminder, the regulator on the USB connector may have different amperage outputs. Get one that meets the designations you would like for your device. A 1 amp device may charge a phone too slow, and you may prefer a 2 amp device. This happened in one situation with my son where we were putting one in. We had to order a different regulator, so it's a lot easier if you get it before. I have my 2016 Mazda Miata, an ND here. And today I'm going to try and run cabling for a camera and a radar detector. Goal is to come out here, going to run the cable down the pillar to the fuse box. To the fuse box on the driver's side. Now, I've already had the pillar off. First problem I encountered was trying to disconnect the speaker so I could get out of the way. The connector did not want to pop loose. I couldn't figure out how to get it out, so I'm going to have to figure that out. But I'm going to have to pop this again to get back in there. I've run no wires yet, but it looks like I will be removing the top panel, or at least loosening it, so I'm probably going to have to remove the top guide. And I have a screw over here, and I think that should take care of that and let me get in there and get the wires run. There is a gap here, I guess, for the power mirror, if it had one, for the automatic mirror, so that I should be able to get the cabling through without much difficulty. We'll just see what happens. Now, the side trim here actually pops off very easily. If you can get under here, it just will pop loose. Maybe. Because there is one clip here, and a guide there. So I'm going to have to do this with two hands. We'll come back. To make access easier, I removed the kick plate. And to get that out, I first took out the door trim. Okay, door trim, one retaining clip up near the footrest that pops out. You know, it's one of those little circular prong things. Get the center prong loose and then it pops right out, and everything just lifted right out. Probably could fish the wire down without removing it, but I said I was going to go easy on myself, so I have easier access to everything. So we got everything open except for the top now. That's what we're going to attack next. Okay, I got the hood alignment bracket out. You're going to need a T40 torx head to do that. You got 2 bolts there, and over closer to the mirror under the visor you have a T30 torx head bolt. I can now access everything under here, so I'm not taking off anymore. We'll get our wires run and then figure out the rest. Okay, I decided to try a snake to get the wires through, and there we have it in place. I fished it down from the top, and now I'm going to bring the wires from below to above the dash. So that's going to be the next phase. I ran the 2 wires. The dash cam wire is on the right of the mirror. The passport wire is on the left. There are 2 holes, one bigger than the other. The bigger one's behind the courtesy light. So I ran one out one hole and the other out the other. I do have room to be able to pull some through, keep some extra up there. Now I also discovered if you take off the weather stripping, you can see how you're fishing better, and you will have less chance of getting caught on something. So I had a minor setback with the fishing, trying to fish it back up, but once I got the weather stripping out, I was able to control things better. So now we're getting set to start putting things together and connecting the electric. Okay. Now I've taken the ends of the 2 cables and I've spliced them together so I'll have one connection. That way only one ground lug will be needed, and I will have one wire going into the fuse tap off the positive. I also used a shrink tubing on the wires to basically take any stress off the joint that might be there. I will probably be using a crimp connection for the wire for the fuse tap, but we haven't gotten quite to that point yet. But we're making progress. First, remember to get the proper fuse tap for your application. I got a Mini. It turns out the Miata uses a Mini low profile, so I had to order a different one. The fuse tap also check with a voltmeter to find out which side is your hot side and which is the non-powered side, because if you put it in backwards, your device will always be powered. Now, both of these cables have their own fuses in line, so it would not have been a big deal.
Up.
But
if
you
have the
have
positive
a
lead
cable
sticking
without
out
a
of the
fuse, you could have an unprotected
I did
device.
use a zip tie to tie the wires back in there around another bunch. I used for ground, the mount for the fuse box has a heavy bolt on it that goes directly to the chassis, so that was very easy to find. And we have our bracket back together up here, a little out of focus, and we're all buttoned up here with our cables hanging down. So now we're going to get the radar mount up and get the radar detector on the mirror. And now to finish the project up. Now I had to get a different fuse tap since I decided to use a fuse tap here. The Miata uses a low profile Mini, and I had just gotten a Mini, so we got that. I'm also going to need a micro USB to mini USB connector, because apparently the camera is a bit older and I preferred having the micro USB connector in case we ever replace the camera. So we'll just use the adapter here for the time being. And as a reminder, with a fuse tap, remember one side of the fuse will be always hot and the other side will be the fuse protected side. So always check to make sure there's no current on the side that's feeding the devices, or they're going to be hot all the time. So the simplest way would be to insert the adapter and then check to see if you have current when you when you turn on the ignition. I'm going to use the accessory fuse. It is ignition controlled, and that's what we're going to do now. The Passport 9500iX is mounted with a radar mount made by the Package Group. It's available on Amazon, or I believe direct from them. It's a very nice little device. I guess you could say it's sort of cantilevered. Hangs snugly under the mirror. It's uptight, but you can still access everything. I'm using this in my other cars. You can still access the home link buttons if they're on your mirror with this. You can set it up very conveniently. Okay, the camera is up with a regular suction cup mount that came with it. It now comes on with the ignition, as does the Passport. So we're all hooked up, and now we'll just shut it down with our ignition. So, car's shutting down. While we're waiting for that, the radar detector's off and the camera is off. So we're all set. We're good to go. Everything's wired. Remember, when you use a device like that in the fuse box, make sure you're not keeping the power on all the time. You want to maintain the fuse protection. So always double check yourself. Okay.